Yo, it's your boy Nero Glace, and we back at it. I'm finally back in my zone, getting recordings in and out. So I got my energy back now. The fall time is finally done, kicking my back in. And y'all see I got this on right here. That's cause it's cold. It ain't cold in here, but tis the season, you feel me? Little construction cone looking, you feel me? Something like that. But this popped up on my YouTube, per usual. Something I don't know about. Don't know who 88Rising is. But we gonna see why they calling them 88 Falling. The sad downfall of 88Rising. So hopefully this will inform me of who they are, how they went up, and how they went down. If y'all know something that I don't know, some music, songs by them, let me know in the comments. I would be very appreciative of that. If you let me know some songs that I can react to get to know who 88Rising is. But without further ado, throw these headphones on, you know what I'm saying? These headphones, I can hear everything with this. I can hear your thought right now. You just thought that I couldn't do that. You thought I couldn't hear what you were saying. Now you saying you weren't thinking that. I'm good. Well, let's go. It's your boy Nero Glace. It means black ice.
In the late 2010s, 88Rising was a record label that popped onto the scene with stars like Joji and Rich Brian. They saw tons of success with huge festivals, collaborations with mainstream artists, and even getting to do soundtracks for whole Marvel movies. It felt like they were really putting on for the Asian and Asian American communities, giving them a spotlight in genres they didn't typically have one. But as of late, it feels like 88Rising is nowhere to be found, and that mostly can be chalked up to a few controversies and disputes between the label and its artists. 88Rising was founded back in 2015 by producer Sean Mayashiro and entrepreneur Jason Ma. I hope I pronounced those right, but if I was wrong, you can flame me, that's fine. While most people just think that 88Rising is a label, Sean describes it as more of a hybrid management, record label, video production, and marketing company, basically covering all the bases you need to be successful in the music industry. And that's been their goal from the start. Their goal has been to especially provide a platform for Asian and Asian American artists to grow and excel in their music careers. When 88Rising first got started, they operated more as just a music collective and management company under the name Cash Only. To find new up-and-coming artists, they turned to the internet. This is where Cash Only found their first official artists, including Brian Puspos, Dumbfounded, Josh Pan, and more. Sean described the collective's goal.
Never heard of them, but I haven't heard of a lot of artists. I'm just now even dwelling into the rock world.
Saying he was trying to represent for not only Asian immigrants, but for all immigrants. A few months later, Dumbfounded showed Sean the music video of Keith Ape's single Itji Ma, and after watching it, Sean decided to sign Keith and connected him with Dumbfounded on a remix of Itji Ma, also featuring ASAP Ferg, Father, and Waka Flocka Flame. The remix's music video debuted on Complex and marked a significant milestone for the collective. And Keith Ape was one of my favorite artists from this label. Even after his collabs with artists like X and Ski, I feel like his music was pretty fire. He had like that underground sound and he was dope. At this point, Sean was still living in student housing with his wife and taking meetings out of his car. In an interview, he said, I was about to say it was fire. It wasn't fire. It was what it was. We didn't know what the it was going to be. Early in 2016, Brian Emanuel, under the name Rich, dropped a video for his song Dat Stick, which went pretty viral for a few reasons.
Can I say it? Can I say it? I ain't gonna say it. Rich.
The video featured Brian in a pink polo and a Reebok fanny pack with others in his group toting handguns. The song is undeniably catchy, but Brian not only references killing cops, he also drops the N-word, which he later apologized for and also changed his rap name to Rich Brian. I think though that kind of helped the song blow up because of the juxtaposition of him wearing like the pink polo and then saying things like that. And the song is...
That's kind of how Ian blew up, correct? Like an oxymoron, something like that. Am I using that word right?
Itself was okay. However, aside from the controversial aspects, Brian, who grew up in Jakarta learning English on YouTube, blew up from the track. One of the people who noticed was Sean, who also followed Brian on Vine and offered to fly him out to South by Southwest to perform. At this point, Brian was only 16, so he had to ask his mom, and she actually agreed, but he was unable to get a visa in time and couldn't make it. So at the next South by Southwest in 2016, Sean set up a Chinese decor-inspired booth where he filmed content with up-and-coming rappers. This is where the company posted posted their first content on YouTube under the name 88Rising, asking artists about their favorite anime characters, their impressions of Asia, and their reactions to a series of videos by Asian rappers, including Brian's. The first clip they posted was of Designer performing Panda in front of the shrine, which was later captioned with Chinese subtitles, and it got decent views. Around this time though, Sean's new venture, which was Brian, was still facing a bunch of backlash, thanks to his hit song Dat Stick. However, Sean believed that Brian was just a kid from the other side of the world who didn't know any better, so he signed him anyways. After Dat Stick, Brian expressed wanting to release his next track called Hold My Strap, but Sean was worried that Brian would box himself in with this one-dimensional subject matter about make-believe gunplay, which would just make him a meme. So instead, Sean put together a video which reached over 20 million views called Rappers React to Rich Brian to address the controversy.
Rich Chigga.
Let's get it.
Yeah.
Yo, this nigga got a pouch on and a Reebok pouch.
Nah, this is my guy right here. It's Rich Chigga.
You even found a way to say nigga without saying it.
While people on Twitter argued about whether Dat Stick appropriated black culture, the reaction video posed a complicated question. What if other rappers like Dat Stick, rappers like Michi Darko, Cameron, and even Ghostface all complimented the track, with Ghostface offering to do a remix? Clearly, some big names in rap like the track's sound, which
Ghostface Killer. I think his son dropped a song called that or something.
helped establish Brian as an actual artist, and it also sort of combated against that one-hit wonder meme sort of status. After Dat Stick, Rich Brian went on a solid run, releasing multiple projects including Amen and The Sailor, which both had a pretty solid reception. He also reached a level where he could get bigger features as well, like 21 Savage. Especially considering where his music career started, I'd say that headlining multiple tours and performing at some of the biggest festivals, like Rolling Loud for example, is a win. However, Brian is far from 88Rising's only internet name turned star, because in late 2017, Joji signed.
I have never heard of him though. I gotta look him up. Like, where do I be under a rock for real?
Into the label, who was previously known by many as Filthy Frank. Filthy Frank already had internet success for things like his crazy skits and Harlem Shake memes, so him doing all of that and then the type of music he went on to put out was pretty surprising. However, to most people who weren't already aware of Joji because of Filthy Frank, to them he popped up on a lot of radars after his viral interview with Hot Ones.
And today I'm joined by Joji. He's the meme lord behind YouTube cult heroes Filthy Frank and Pink Guy. His second full-length project, Pink Season, soared to the top of the iTunes charts earlier this year, and good news, there's more new music on the way. Joji, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting. I've always wanted to be on this. Whoa! Whoa!
Joji details how years of going through the motions in the content game led to him.
I don't do hot. I don't do spicy for real. I don't do all that because I don't want to be somewhere sitting down, sweating, and praying or crying out. No.
Being turned off by the increasingly toxic internet sphere. And while his novelty rap albums with Pink Guy were fun, Joji feared that they would be the closest he'd come to committing to a music career. Joji said, "Sean pulled me out of that slump." He claims that at first he was contacted by 88Rising to aid in the creation of viral videos, but once Sean heard his demos, he immediately pivoted to focusing on exploring Joji's career as a musician instead. Soon after, Joji worked to create his debut EP, In Tongues, and alongside the support of Sean, released it. In a similar fashion to Brian, but even more successful, as Joji, he went on an insane run with his following projects and tours. To make things simple, his RIAA certifications include 1 platinum album, 2 gold albums, 1 5x platinum song, 2 2x platinum songs, 4 1x platinum songs, and 7 gold songs, including his hits like Slow Dancing in the Dark, Yeah Right, and Glimpse of Us. These numbers obviously speak for themselves. Despite the brevity of Joji's career, he crushed it for himself in 88Rising. And while it's not over yet, we'll get to that soon. By the end of 2017, a group of 88Rising artists including Rich Brian, Joji, Keith Ape, and the Higher Brothers were at the end of the tour that had sold out quickly. And in the following years, Sean had big plans, having already sold out concerts in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York. It seemed like the sky was the limit. They had also signed the artist NIKI, who would go on to be super successful with songs like Every Summertime, which landed at...
Are you guys familiar with 88Rising and NIKI, Joji, Brian? Are you guys? Was it Brian? rich chica. Oh. I don't know if I could say that, but I apologize if I offended anyone.
Itself in the Marvel movie Shang-Chi. I'm actually just finding out that Sean in 88Rising executive produced that entire movie's soundtrack, which is crazy. And what's even crazier is that apparently NIKI is the most streamed Indonesian artist, which is insane. Between plans of developing a TV series, collective albums, bigger tours, and even festivals of their own, 88Rising continued their massive run. At their peak, 88Rising did so well with its brand identity, separating itself from any other record label or news outlet. As Sean puts it, they take ownership. No one's going to walk around and get a Complex tattoo or a Vice tattoo. People are getting 88Rising tattoos on their body, bro. That's how we're different. Aside from their huge stars like Joji and Rich Brian, everyone on the label was popping off, collaborating with mainstream artists.
But this just shows a clear example of what 88 was trying to do. Because Keith 8, then you had a Ski Mask and XXX Tentacion collab. You got Lil Yachty doing the Big Bang karaoke, Migos and Cardi reacting to Higher Brothers, Lil Pump and the Pink Guy Party. This kind of felt like the golden years of 88Rising since it actually worked. The most famous rappers at that time were being part of 88Rising, but also it felt like maybe 88 wasn't included with the most famous rappers.
At this point, it seemed like 88Rising just could not fail. 88Rising had also started the Head in the Clouds Festival, which was an annual festival that had artists from the label, as well as others like Anderson .Paak. They had become a beacon for the Asian community in pop culture and music. Sean's assistant, Cynthia Guo, spoke on how important 88Rising's ideals were to her, saying, "I think growing up, I was always made to feel that Asian culture wasn't cool. There was no one brand I could pinpoint as this really cool Asian thing until 88Rising. And the earlier mentioned investor who's from Hong Kong later shared similar joy, mentioning how whenever he finds himself in an Uber in the US, he enjoys playing the driver's songs by 88Rising's artists. He said, "They flip out. It's just so fun for me as an Asian to see an Asian voice being celebrated." But things wouldn't last like this forever. In the months and years following, 88Rising
being a first or something can most definitely be a perk, because people like new ideas, new things they haven't seen, but once it get played out. Let's see how it got played out.
began experimenting with not only content outside of music, but also creators outside of Asian culture, like their first non-Asian artist, August 08. They also started leaning heavier into collabs with K-pop artists and
What did they say? August was fire. Okay.
They also started leaning heavier into collabs with K-pop artists and other international groups, which again was a bit different from their original vision. With these random changes here and there came a couple of critiques. A lot of these critiques actually came from the Asian community itself. Some issues were due to complex geopolitics of entering the Asian market, and another negative sentiment partially dated back to some of 88Rising's earliest investors, one of which said he was initially skeptical of the company's idea because of its narrow focus on Asian and Asian American culture. The investor continued saying, "I think the goal with assimilation, or trying to fit into the dominant culture, is you don't try to marginalize yourself." And well, he eventually had his mind changed because of the success of acts like Keith Ape and Rich Brian, but he wasn't alone in his worries. Sean said, "Asian Americans my age are typically scared, and when something starts to penetrate, like we are for whatever reason, the Asian Americans are the most skeptical." He also detailed that some of the fear came from worries of negative representations being brought to a broader audience. He said, "They're like fearful of making sure that we don't offend anyone, making sure that we're staying safe, making sure we don't appropriate anything." But that was only one of the issues and sides of opinion, as others.
How do y'all feel about that? That playing it safe, don't want to step on nobody's toes, and want to keep that perfect image. How do y'all feel about that? Do you agree? In the Asian community felt almost the opposite. So as 88Rising began branching out into K-pop or signing non-Asian artists, they kind of started leaving some of their original ideals behind. The original ideals that were focused on providing media platforms to combat the relative scarcity of Asian Americans in popular culture. And while obviously 88Rising supporters aren't only from the Asian community, it is a foundation from which it was built on. A fan on Reddit felt as if 88Rising sold out by saying, 88 has been dead. They never followed up with a Head in the Clouds 3 album, and since then, their creativity halted or just completely vanished. These albums showed how cohesive the label was.
but now it's just a festival sellout. They continued on how the label was changing when they said, "I somewhat agree that it's cool to see 88 feature Asian indie artists, but it came to the expense of neglecting their previously signed artists like Higher Brothers, August 08, Keith Ape, and Dumbfounded. If you were a fan in the beginning, you would see that their YouTube content featured lots of expression that highlighted many of these signed artists. Nowadays, you rarely ever see, if any, content." An example is like what happened with the Joji situation, where he has at this point gone almost completely silent on social media, with some fans theorizing that he chose to leave music because of complications with his label 88Rising. One of their other biggest artists, Rich Brian, took a 6-year break from releasing music as well, only recently dropping his 3rd album titled Where's My Head. So clearly it isn't too good for the label when 2 of their biggest artists are taking these massive
I might check that out. Brian.
breaks. A Reddit user said, "They're spread too thin now with too many artists in my opinion, and the Joji, Brian, NIKI trio that built the brand isn't nearly as prominent anymore. Joji's completely off social media, Brian hasn't made anything notable post The Sailor, and NIKI's the only one that's still alive. At this point, I see it as a collection of artists rather than a single unified brand, which is really sad because I really do miss that 2018 Head in the Clouds summer." In 2021, 88Rising also had some pretty tough hits at a considerably fragile point in their history. The biggest one that you might remember is the Yellow Square incident. After a shooting that took place in Atlanta where 6 of the 8 victims were Asian women, an outpouring of support came from Asian communities across the country. One of these being 88Rising. This was during the Stop Asian Hate movement. And one of the ways that 88Rising showed their support in ending violence against Asian Americans was by posting a yellow square. This came along with a caption condemning and calling out the violence. But the upload backfired, as I'm sure you can imagine, when some viewers compared it to the post from the BLM movement's Blackout Tuesday, where black squares were posted online by many in support of ending racial injustice and inequality. One user wrote on Twitter, "Not 88Rising co-opting something which the folks at the center of the original movement, black people, explicitly said wasn't helpful." Another said, "When I saw people tweeting about big accounts posting yellow squares, I thought they had to be joking, and yet 88Rising actually did it." After all the backlash, 88Rising amended the post, acknowledging the reaction online, and later ended up deleting it entirely. They also uploaded a separate apology as well for the whole media meltdown that occurred. And obviously this wasn't the sole reason 88Rising kind of fell off the mainstream. That was just like a small part of it. It did
What do you guys think that they should have done? Held a press conference, donated money, got out and marched along with the crowd that was marching with the picket signs. When it comes to these type of situations, as far as movements, like what do you guys want from an entertainment company?
come at a time when the label didn't really need any extra criticism. On top of this, if we fast forward to today, Joji recently released a single on a new label confirming that he left 88, which fans had been theorizing he had been trying to get out of their deal for a while. So without their biggest artist, they are definitely much worse off. And remember all the appropriation talk that I mentioned earlier? Well, that ended up being a problem too. See, 88Rising started signing and working with more K-pop artists eventually. Fans said things like, the error was that they thought that if they collab with K-pop artists, the K-pop Western fans will eventually start listening to their music, when in reality those fans are a completely different audience. And this transition left people feeling a little weird, with one fan saying, I specifically remember an 88Rising interview where Sean was like, we're not exploiting rap, this is our craft. Fast forward to today, seeing how they basically pivoted to K-pop/international collabs really just tells me that rap/black culture was really just a stepping stone for them, which is hella suspect. And I think the transition to K-pop was really one of the biggest mistakes they made, with one of the top comments on Jimmy's video being, straight facts. Instead of sticking with their OG group, they introduced all these K-pop artists who all kind of sound the same. Miss the old Summer Madness phase for real.
That is kind of different. So like I was saying, my hard drive ejected for some reason. It's gonna be very hard as a label to pivot, not hard, but for the audiences to pivot with you from one genre to another genre. Hip hop and K-pop are two totally different things, and that shows. If we're listening to this for this type of music, we not finna jump straight to singers, or we've already been over there. Especially if we built on a certain type of a few artists, you know what I'm saying? And then during that time period, anyway, artists was having problems like they were signing, they were young, just wanting the fame, wanting some money, and just not end up in the great deals or not having no creative freedom or be able to drop them how they want to. We done heard that story a million times, so I'm not surprised they had label problems with an artist or two. You know, it's going to happen as tensions rise and people grow and our vision start to differ. But they should have enough money to overcome this. Also, I don't know if I had already said this already. My mind had kind of went blank when the recording stopped. If it's not about the money, I can't get a label no escape at this point. Cause y'all said it's not about the money. It's about the purity of the brand. I may have already went over this, but I'm not understanding why we would make a big jump like that. If I was someone, a publicist, I would say it's for what they call it, not the purity of the brand, but longevity of the brand. Not purity, but longevity. If we trying to see what we could sustain, because hip hop is a trendy type of thing. Music in general is trendy, waves, and it's kind of hard to find the next big hip hop artist, or you can get something that's already working. Like I said, all the K-pop groups they did have were sounding the same, so they obviously were trying to get something they thought would work and build up some strong fan bases and pull that world over and try to get that money. And so I guess it is what it is, and I guess it's in Asia, so they could focus more in Asia with the K-pop, more international fans. But I don't know. My first impression of 88Rising, I had to go listen to Brian. I want to go listen to that album, so I'm gonna check that out. I may not do any reactions to it, Joji, but I will go check them out and see how they're hitting. So I thought 88Rising was a group. It is a label. So my bad, guys. If you made this far with me, I appreciate it. It's your boy Nero Glace. Don't forget about me. Means Black Ice. Let me go ahead and get to the next one.
Okay.